Just Talk Black Show. Disclosure Statement. Disclaimer. The views and opinions shared on the Just Talk Black Show are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the show, its sponsors, or affiliates. This show is a space for open, honest, and respectful dialogue within the Black community. Some conversations may include sensitive topics, strong language, or personal opinions that are intended to spark thought and encourage positive change. Listener discretion is advised. All guests are responsible for the accuracy of their statements and agree to participate voluntarily. By appearing on the show, guests give permission for their audio, video, and likeness to be recorded and distributed across Just Talk Black's platforms. Let's talk real. Let's talk truth. Let's just talk black.
We just talk black. You ain't heard about it. Just Talk Black Show with DJ Purpose on Thursday at 7 p.m. Black business. Just talk black. The issues we deal with. Just Talk Black Show. Come and just talk black with DJ Purpose on Thursday at 7 p.m. If you black and in the community, this is where you need to be. Just Talk Black Show. Just talk black. Come and just talk black.
Hello, I just wanted to say a big thank you for everybody for tuning in today. You're tuned in for the first ever Just Talk Black show. And what we actually do on this show is promote black businesses. And this is worldwide. So if it's worldwide, you've got a black business, say if you're a musician, say if you're an artist, say if you got say if you do bakery, this is the place for you. And also following weeks we will also be doing live discussions about what happens within the black community, discussions that you can choose what you want to discuss about on this Just Talk radio show. And that would also be a call in where you can actually call in and get your view and say it out loud on air. So today we have a special guest, a very special guest, our first ever guest on the show. So it's a person that is well known, which I well known. I've been to a lot of events and seen her selling her books, and also she does poetry as well. So this is exciting times to have her on my show, and I'm gonna let you introduce who she is and what she does. So let me see if I could just bring her in for you. Just hold on a minute. Let's see if we can get her up.
Good evening.
Good evening. How you doing, Sam? How is it today
I am
over there?
good.
So just tell us a little bit about what you do. You are the first ever guest on the Just Talk Black show. I am so proud to have you on as the first guest.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm very proud to be the first guest. My name is Samantha Rodgers. I am a poet and author. I write poetry not only for children but also for adults as well.
Okay, Samantha. Could you also just tell us, let's just start by what inspired you to start writing, especially in the realm of books and poetries?
To be honest with you, I've been writing since I was a child. My dad used to be a musician. He still is. And my dad plays the piano, sax, guitar. But my dad always used to write lyrics for his band that he used to play with when he was younger. So I think maybe without me realizing it, that's where the talent has come from. So I've always loved writing, but I always liked rhyming poetry. But I used to write little stories when I was younger. Anything to do with writing, I was obsessed. My favorite subject at school was English. So I think for years I always knew I wanted to be a writer and I wanted to get, like, some work published. But I think with most things in life and with a lot of people, fear sometimes can stop you from doing what you really want. But yeah, I've always loved writing. So that's probably where the inspiration comes from, as in my dad.
Wonderful, wonderful. So tell us a little bit about your first your book, your latest book, and how does it speak to the Black community? That's what I really want to know about because I've seen your books and I love your books.
Oh, thank you. Well, my latest book, which is number, let me think, number 17. My latest book is called Macias and the Missing Number Operations. And it's about a young black boy who's very, very good at maths. But one day he goes to take a test, and the number operations, i.e., the addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, the signs go missing. So he's got to find a way to get them back. And the reason I wrote it, and all of my books, if I'm honest, all my children's books have really strong black characters, is to try and, to address the issue of, the lack of diversity in children's books, especially from a UK point of view. I know maybe in the States there's probably more, but even if you look at percentage of how many books have black characters, it's a lot less than books with other characters from other backgrounds. So I've always been really kind of conscious of wanting my characters to be very strong, positive characters, because I strongly believe, as a teacher myself, because I'm also a primary teacher, that every child should be able to see themselves in books. And if I think about my experience when I was at school many, many years ago, I don't remember having any books with black characters unless they were like derogatory characters, and I'm not going to go into that. So it's important, I feel, especially as a teacher, and I see the impact it has, for my books to be very, very strong characters, so that young black boys and girls can actually, resonate and see themselves in those images and actually feel a part of the story and be a hero in their own story as well.
Okay, lovely. But also, I just wanted to touch on the point of your logo and just give us a bit about. I'm going to just bring that up. And this is your logo. Can you just tell us about your logo and your company?
Yeah, my company is called Nubiana Media. I'm very, obviously, very Afrocentric in my approach to everything. I believe, even though, my parents are from the Caribbean, I still believe we all start in Africa, and that's where it starts. So for me, I wanted to have that strong kind of image as well. The whole idea of calling it Nubiana Media is that because I would like to be able to branch out into other things. I don't want to just be known for my books. I'd like to go into other forms of media as well. So I thought I would sort of, like, think big, think for the future. So rather than just going by my actual name, all my books have that on the back as my logo. So that is the actual idea behind my business, Nubiana Media.
Wonderful, wonderful. I actually love that logo. That logo is just like, wow,
Oh,
absolutely
thank you
brilliant.
very much.
Absolutely brilliant. But just the next thing, I just really wanted to point. So the theme or your messages do you most explore in your writing? So when you're actually doing your writing of your books, what are the themes or the message that you really wanted to point out to the Black community?
It's a mixture, because obviously with my children's books, I try not to make my books messagey, and by that I mean I want children to be able to just pick up a book just like any other child can and read a story about a character. I think only one of my actual children's books actually addresses something to do with the black community, and that's my book called Loxley's Locks, and that's more about teaching people boundaries. I'm sure this will resonate with many black people, especially those like myself with locks, or just any black hairstyle, where people feel the need to not be able to look without coming to touch your hair, thinking that we're some kind of object. And I think, nobody likes that. I would never dream of doing that to anyone else. So I wrote that book with that message in mind, as you can look but don't touch. And I know it infuriates a lot of black people, but we're so conditioned sometimes to not say anything and smile it off. But I've gone past that stage, so I'm hoping nobody ever decides to put their hands in my hair. So that book is hopefully there to teach, lots of other people that, black children are not dolls. And yes, their hair looks different and their hair is wonderful, but, keep your hands out of their hair. Now, when it comes to my adult poetry, I mean, I explore lots of different things. My first book, The Poetic Voice of a Black Voice, that book was more to do with my feelings as being a black person in the UK, basically, and just my experiences. So it's got poems about Windrush, it's got poems about, we were enslaved. I hate saying that we were slaves because we weren't, we were enslaved. And it's got different poetry just about things I felt in my life. And then in another book I've got, The Rapture of a New Chapter, that's more just about new beginnings. So it really depends. The first book is probably more about black issues, whereas with the second book, I think that's more to do with just starting afresh and, being bold, being brave, being resilient, which, let's be honest, as a black person, we incorporate all of those things. So I guess it still does resonate with that kind of audience as well.
That is absolutely brilliant. So this is you absolutely selling out an event, and I've actually been there, and I've actually bought one of your books as well for my son. So I actually bought the locks one with about the hair that you was talking about. I absolutely like gave that one to my son. What has been the most surprising lesson you learned from your readers? So, what is the feedback that you've got back from the Black community, and what lessons have you learned from getting your feedback from your clients that is actually bought your books?
To be honest with you, the most surprising thing is when you find out how many people actually like your work. I think as a writer or in anything you do in life, you do it for the love of doing it. But it's also more rewarding when people then actually give you feedback and say, oh, I loved your book and I bought another one for my niece and I bought that one for my sister. That really surprises me all the time, because as a writer, you can be quite selfish where you write for yourself, not really knowing if anyone else will resonate with your writing or your feelings and your thoughts. So obviously, I write from a perspective of how I feel. And sometimes I forget that, as black people, especially, our voice has been silenced for so long. We sometimes don't always share exactly how we feel. And sometimes it might take a poem or something that I've written that somebody else says, I feel like that too. So you don't feel so invisible. So I think I've realized that, you have a lot of power in being a writer, just like you have the same power in being an actor and being, a singer. Think about the songs that you sing, the legacy you're going to leave behind. Think about the roles that you take. Will you always take stereotypical roles? And I think sometimes I didn't realize how much power I have, not only in what I write, but how I present myself. So, for example, when I go to school events and things, I have a lot of power just by being a black woman and an author. And then the children that then see me, that sends a really positive message for them to think I can be that as well. So I think the most surprising thing has been how much people actually enjoy my poetry, which always makes you feel really good. And it makes you feel like you're very rewarded, because then you realize that your work is touching others, and it's not, you don't really ever know, which poem people will resonate the most with. But I have had a lot of really lovely emails from people who've asked for more books or have told me they've, gifted books to other people. And that always makes me feel really good.
Wonderful, Sam. That is absolutely brilliant. I know that you've been doing a lot of work in the schools. So I'm going to actually bring up one of your books. Can you just tell us a little bit about that book for us? And I'm just going to show a bit of pages as well about it.
Yeah, this is the latest one about the boy with the missing number operations. So Macias and the missing number operations. It actually was inspired by a child I worked with years ago, actually, when I used to live and teach in Oman, and he was really, really bright. I was so proud of him, and I know that sounds terrible, but because he was a black boy, young black boys get stereotyped so much for everything negative, and he was like one of the smartest kids in this school that I worked at. He was a year 6 child, and I just remember being so proud of him all the time, just thinking you're sort of breaking that stereotype, especially for lots of people who probably have never really been around a lot of black people. He was exceptional at maths. Hence why I said a lot of my characters I don't want them to just be good at sports or something like that. I try to make it a bit more than that. And that's not to knock any sports person, because I'm a football fan, love Arsenal, by the way. But for me, I just want there to be more so that our children can actually say, it's okay to be good at maths or to be good at science. I know there's always that nerd stereotype, but that's actually a good thing. There's no such thing as being a nerd. It just means you're bright, you're articulate, you're sensible. And I think that needs to be kind of more rewarded, but also the light needs to be shone on all those children out there that are very smart. So I like my stories to have something, academic or something that other children can aspire to. So that's really the reason why I wanted to make it about a boy that loves maths.
I'm just going to ask you a quick question because I know that you actually teach in school, as I was saying before, and this is you actually a picture of you teaching in schools, which is, which is wonderful, absolutely beautiful. I love seeing those sort of stuff. I just want to ask you a question: is how important is it for the Black community to be reading books? And I know, I'm going a little bit off topic, but I just need to really ask that question as an author. How important is it for the Black community to literally read a book? Because personally, me, I find it hard to read because I've got such a busy life. But how important is it to read a book?
Well, reading is knowledge and knowledge is power. So I think it is more important. I don't think it really matters even what type of books you read. I just think reading in general is always good. With a lot of the children that I teach, some of the parents always tell me, my child doesn't like reading. And there's a really like quote that a lot of teachers use, and it's not that your child doesn't like reading, they just haven't found the right book yet. So you've got to make sure that you get your children into reading. Anything they want to read, get them to read it, because then you'll make them lifelong readers. So even if they want to read comic books, it's still reading. It's got to be better than them sitting on a PlayStation for 24 hours a day. Does that make sense? But from an adult perspective, I think a lot more adults read books than probably some of the children nowadays, just because children are sort of more obsessed with technology, which obviously can be a good and a bad thing. But I think a lot of adults read now because there's more Black authors. And I think that that's what's making more Black people read, because they can actually they can see the stories that they're about them. Obviously some of the negative ones I'm not the biggest fan of, the ones that are very much, heavily dealt in, the crime and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to, especially I think from a female perspective, there are a lot of stories out there from the Black female experience. And I think that a lot of women are more likely to read those books. Not to say they won't read books from, authors of other backgrounds, but again, it's things you can relate to. And I think when you can relate to something, that will make you want to buy another book and another book. And there are so many Black authors now that I think it is important. But now that we're having that opportunity to share our voices, I think then more people want to actually hear them. So I think it's really a bit of both. I think we've always been reading, but sometimes we haven't resonated with the stories. But now that we can, I think that we are reading more, and not just for like from a fictional point of view, even from non-fiction, to learn about our history, learn about our roots, learn about lots of things. I think that it's opening up the floor more because we're having more of us telling our own stories rather than somebody else. I don't know. I like to call it doing a remix of our story, which is never usually the truth.
Wonderful. And also, just to go on that point as well, so what challenges have you faced as a Black author and a poetry in the publishing world, and how have you overcome this?
Um, Yeah, I've faced a lot. You get a lot of knockbacks. I send emails, no response, not even a courtesy response. I'm used to that now, though, so I'm all good. But you do face a lot of that, especially if you're not a known author. I'm not a known author. So, in that respect, there are a lot of gatekeepers in the industry. And they usually, especially in schools, for example, they use usually authors on a set list, book list that they have. So it's very hard if you are a new author to try and break through, let alone if you are a Black author. Now, unfortunately, sometimes you will get called into schools, to tick some kind of diversity list because they need to have somebody Black in to show that, they don't discriminate against Black people. Now, don't get me wrong, I'll take the opportunity, but I don't want to be something that's just used to tick a box. So I'm very sort of like aware of that happening. But I think that the challenges are there, but it just depends how passionate you are. I've got myself into a lot of schools through word of mouth, through a lot of perseverance, resilience, and also by just being good. at the end of the day, there's another quote that I live by, and it always says, you know, be so good they can't ignore you. So yeah, there are challenges because they don't know you. How do you get the experience if they don't actually want to have you in the school? I've been lucky that I've had a lot of friends who've supported me and gone to their schools and told head teachers about me. I've had sometimes people have seen things that I've posted and then they've asked me to come into schools. You've also got to be ready for opportunities. I'll give you an example. I think about a year or two ago, something was on Facebook. A school Peterborough were looking for somebody to come in and do something for their Black History Month. And I jumped on the opportunity. As soon as I saw it, I jumped on it. I gave them a proposal of what I could do. I got the opportunity. But again, sometimes we have to take responsibility. If you sit back and think, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it the next day. As soon as I saw it, I jumped on it. Did I think I was going to get it? I didn't know, but I knew what I could offer and I got the opportunity. So it's not just about, you know, the challenges. You've got to be also prepared when the opportunities come to grab it, because if you're not prepared, somebody else will take that opportunity. So I think there has to be accountability on our part as well, because we already know the challenges are going to be there, but it's
Yeah.
how you deal with them and not to give up when you do come across those obstacles.
So if there was, say, a new person who, what advice would you give, say, a black writer who wants to tell their own story? Somebody who new just getting into, and they want to be a book author, they want to write their story, they want to get their books into the world. What advice would you give to them?
Don't stop. Don't ever give up. You know, at the end of the day, it's not an easy business to get into. At the end of the day, I write because I love it. I write because I'm passionate about it. Um, you've got to ask yourself, why are you doing it? Are you doing it just to say that I've got a book? Are you doing it because it's something that you feel that you're good at doing? Are you doing it because you have a story to tell that you think will resonate? I never believe you should go into something just thinking about it from a financial point of view, because once you do that, you've kind of lost the love of why you're doing it. At the end of the day, anybody that says being an author will make you a lot of money, it doesn't happen overnight like that. You know, if you even look at some of the big ones, like, you know, your J.K. Rowling, if you ever read her backstory as to how many of her books, you know, the Harry Potter series, they were rejected by so many book publishing companies, and she was on benefits when she wrote that book. So at the end of the day, if you think you can just make it overnight, it just never happens that way. You've got to write because you want to. You've got to write because you feel that you've got something to offer and share. So I would say never give up, but just remind yourself why you're doing it. If it's for fame and glory, then you're in the wrong business.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. So what I'm going to do, we're going to quickly take a break, and then what I want you to do, Sam, is actually read one of your poems. So we're going to go to a quick sort of break, and this is the advertisement where literally we give you the chance to express your company. So if you got advertisement and all that and you want to get it out on this show, just you can either find me on Just Talk on Instagram, or you could get me on Facebook as DJ Purpose and just send me a message. You should also, if you're on Instagram, you should also have my phone numbers out there, sort of stuff. So this is the time for when we actually promote black businesses on the show. So these are some of the advertisement that we have promoting black businesses.
You like gospel music?
Go to gtracks.net.
You play gospel music?
Go to gtracks.net.
You create gospel music?
Go to gtracks.net. What are you waiting for? Go to gtracks.net. Globally great gospel.
Buy your gospel music on gtracks.net, where the artists get the lion's share.
The Be Uzuri platform was launched by Biddy to promote much more than just being active. Featuring talented trainers from around the world, Be Uzuri brings you representation that matters. Be Uzuri Fitness is an online wellness platform for black women, featuring not only workouts for the gym, yoga and Pilates, but also affirmations, meditation, and African Caribbean plant-based recipes. Featuring a huge variety of female trainers and resources from around the world, Be Uzuri has brought together content that enables black women to truly appreciate what well-being means. The Be Uzuri platform is here to inspire and empower your fitness and wellness journey. Check out the website or download the Android app today.
Yo, got a black owned business. It's time to shine with Just Talk Black Show. This is Just Talk Black, where we speak truth that lift the black community. Advertise your brand on the Just Talk Black Show. Make it loud, make it bold. Call DJ Purpose, let the story unfold. On that 0747153953. This is Just Talk Black Show. Your business, Just Talk Black Show. Your business, your voice. Just Talk Black Show.
But that's some of the advertisement that we have. So remember, if you do want to get your advertisement, and it's totally free, this is what we're about. We're about supporting the black community. This is what this show is about. And also, I'm just going to let you know that if you are a podcast host and you love to do this sort of stuff, and you love to be a member of the Just Talk Black podcast or the podcast show, then also send me a message. We're looking for more hosts, more people like yourself out there who's doing podcasts to come on the show and to interview guests. So this is your opportunity as well. So again, I just want to thank everybody who supported me from even starting this sort of show. You know, this is not easy. This is something that I wanted to do for a long time, and it is taking the time. But I believe in once you get it started, then everything else will fall into its place. So that's like my little advice for anybody out there. If you're trying to do like your own business, just get it off the ground. I mean, you know, there's many people out there who can give you advice, can support you, that can help you, that can even push your company out there. So remember, this is just a place for the black community. This is your place to absolutely get your air out, your talk, your when we do have those discussions, you can say what you feel that needs to be improved in the black community. But anyway, I'm going to get back to Samantha, who's actually going to read us a poem.
Okay, I'm going to try to remember this poem. This poem is called "We Are the Sun." I wrote this poem because I believe, as Black people, we are the sun. We're strong, we're powerful, we're bright, etc. So it's something that I wrote a couple of years ago, actually. So here goes. It's called "We Are the Sun." We are the sun. We are related by birth, descendants of bright light sent down to earth to nourish the soil, give rhythm to the oceans. Our spirits blow in the wind, evoking warm emotions. We are the sun. We are the children of melanin, descendants of hot climates, African pride in our skin, shining with innovation to create and invent, enriching the universe with God's consent. We are the sun. We are truly blessed, sent down to earth as distinguished guests, nurturing humanity, caressing the air, dazzling authentically with unique style and flair. We are the sun, we are the rays, sent down to earth to reflect brighter days. We are the sun, the moon, and the stars. What was meant for us will always be ours. We are the sun, protected by the light. Even in darkness, our essence is bright. We are the sun.
Hey, hey, hey. I love that. I absolutely love that. Hey, I
Thank
need
you
to
very
get that.
much. Thank you.
Can I actually get that in an audio track? Can I get that? Can you send me that on an
You
audio
know,
track?
I can, I'd actually posted that maybe about 2, 3 years ago. I wrote that, and I did post it on my Instagram at the time. But I actually put it with music in the background. So it's kind of like got African drums and stuff in the background, so it really does sound effective. So I'll send you the audio of that.
Ah, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, just in a sense as well, so going back to your books, your reading, your poet, so what do you always hope that your readers would take away from your books and your poem?
I hope there's some hope when they read them. I mean, the book that I wrote, The Rapture of a New Chapter, is about starting fresh and doing something new. And I think no matter what age you are, you still should always be able to dream. And I don't think there's ever an age like, where you should say, I'm too old for that. When I brought my first book out, I was in my late 40s. So, and I've wanted to do that since I was a child. So I'd like to maybe inspire people with some of the poetry as well. And also, just so people actually don't feel invisible. I felt invisible for years, if I'm honest, especially living in the UK as a black woman. We're not really high on the list in most things. So you have to put yourself there. So it's nice to be able to, share those feelings that I've got. And then hopefully other people say, actually, I feel that way too. So for me, writing is also a way of expression. And I think it's something that more of us need to do. We keep a lot of things, inside, and then we get that kind of rage sometimes, which is then seen as aggression and anger, which, let's be honest, if most people went through the things we went through in life, they'd probably feel that way too. But we always have to kind of balance our emotions, and it's not always easy. Whereas I've always found that writing for me is a release, and it's a way of me sort of expressing myself, and it actually can calm me. I find it very healing and very calming.
Wow, that's definitely the truth, definitely the truth. But also, can you share a moment where your work had directly impact someone in the Black community?
Directly, it's a difficult one, because obviously when I go into schools to do school visits, I can see the look on the children's faces when they see me. And then I usually always get some black teacher come up to me saying, oh, I'm so glad it was you, kind of thing, because I think they're also aware. For example, I've been a teacher for over 20 years. And in all the schools that I'd worked in, I've only ever seen one black author come in for an author visit. It's always been somebody that's not black. So I know just from going into the schools, and the children, whether they are black or white children, by the way, or from another background, by seeing me, I give them a different version of what it is to be a black person. Like I said, we're not just all sports stars and singers. We can actually do other things as well. And I think it's really important. So I think I have a big impact when I go into schools, and I take that role really seriously, because when I go in, I want to represent the best way I can. And not just with the fact that, with the talent that I have, as in for poetry, but I know there'll be some children sitting there inspired by me, and not just black children, by the way, because I go into lots of different schools, and I can inspire children from all over. Because if they love writing and they feel they can do it, if they see somebody who's actually living what they would like to become, then it makes it easier for you to think, I can be that person too. But from a black community perspective, I think it's really important that more black authors go into schools to sort of share that with other children, so they can see that they can be exactly what we are when they're older as well.
Ah, that's true. But you know what? I want to ask you a question as well. When it comes down to seeing emerging text nowadays, the technology is advancing, AI is coming out, and you've got apps like Speak Words, videos, or audio books. How is that challenging, and how does that affect for poetry and also for all black authors as well?
I think there's going to be a bit of a problem. I'll be very honest with you. Maybe I'm talking about this from a teacher's head as well, but I've seen people be able to just put into AI, write me a poem. So for all you know, there could be some authors out there whose books, they haven't written one of those poems. I'll be very honest with you. I get really, really irritated by people asking me if I write my own poems. I find it a disrespect, because why wouldn't I write my own poems? But when I now think about it, it's because everybody knows that AI can be used to do just about anything. And there probably are a few people, just like in the music industry, you get ghostwriters and stuff like that. There probably are a few people out there who probably, cannot write for themselves, but a lot of it's been done by technology. That scares me slightly when it comes to the younger generation, because at least with an adult, if I want to use AI to write something, I know that without it, I can still do it. It's just saving me time. But with the younger generation, my fear is that we're going to look at literacy rates probably start to drop, as in their ability to write. I've already seen it in schools, mainly because of things like, texting, and, they scroll a lot. Their attention is very, very weak. It's very hard to keep these children's attention nowadays. So as much as I think AI is a good advancement in technology, it also could be of detriment when it comes to people like writers, because if you can just tap into AI, write me a poetry book, and up it pops, then what happens to those people with the natural talent? But I always believe that, if you are authentic, you will always rise to the top, because at least then you're not having to fake your talent. You can actually, say, this is me, this is my authentic self. So I'm worried about it more from a generational point of view, not so much for myself, because I don't really see how it could harm me, because I write from the heart. AI can't write from the heart. It writes what you tell it to write, but I don't think it could actually write in the same way that, if you were writing from the heart with something that's really passionate, for yourself. But it's technology. I can't stop it. There's nothing you can do to stop technology. So you have to either work along with it, but I fear for the younger generation in the next few years.
That's very true. AI is advancing very, very quick. Where it's gone to now, the levels is absolutely crazy. I mean, some of the videos I've watched people made from AI generation videos and what they are actually doing, it is shooting through the roof. Um, let's ask you about, let's put it like this. If you had a round tables of five black writers or poetry, living or gone, passed away, who would you invite and what would you discuss?
Do you want me to be really honest? There wouldn't really, there's only one person I'd always have loved to be able to meet. And this is going to sound crazy, I'm sure of it. Somebody that's passed, the one and only Muhammad Ali. I've been obsessed with Muhammad Ali for a very long time, since I was younger. When I trained to be a teacher, and I had to take the entrance test to be the teacher, this was many, many years ago, by the way. One of the things they asked us to do was to write about somebody who inspired you. And that's what I wrote about. And I remember when the guy who looked at our paper, he said he was really impressed by the writing. And I actually felt like saying, well, I am a good writer, I know that, but the subject was so easy for me. Who inspired me? Muhammad Ali. Now, I know you're probably thinking, but he's a boxer. Muhammad Ali was more than a boxer. If you think about his rhymes, which I do rhyming poetry, the way that he could just come up with them very, very quickly, very articulate, that's the kind of person I would just sit there and probably just listen to all day speak. Even to this day, I watch lots of his videos. And I think what impresses me the most about Muhammad Ali is not just his wit, his intellect, his passion for his people, but the fact that he was able to speak out in a time when, his life was on the line for saying the things that he said. Now, most of our sports stars and celebrities nowadays are too afraid of being cancelled. Even with the freedoms they have nowadays, they would never say half of the things, not even a fraction of the things that he would say, because they'd be too afraid of losing a sponsorship deal. So for me, it would only be Muhammad Ali, because I see him as more than a boxer. He was a poet, a writer, activist. But from a writing perspective, you only have to watch him, the way he speaks, his charisma. If I could even have an ounce of that, I would be so successful or more successful, because that's called confidence and belief in
Yeah,
yourself. And I still see him as one of the greatest poets of all time. And that's just how I view it, because I love everything they used to say. It was poetic, and it always had such kind of impact whenever he spoke. So for me, I would push everybody else to the side. It would just be me and Muhammad Ali, and I would just listen to him for hour after hour after hour.
absolutely. I think you're absolutely right there. One of the absolutely legend who spoke out about certain things. And I wish that there was a lot of more athletics people who did speak to the black community and who did amplify our voice out there, which I feel, which we'll have a topic discussion about that. But I feel like, yeah, you're definitely right with that. There needs to be a lot more, especially when it comes down to the sport world. The black people just need to really push our voices out there and get us heard, because they represent us. And I think that's very important, and what you touched on there. But just also just ask another question. How do you handle criticism or pushback when addressed in complex topics in your work?
To be honest with you, I don't really care, really. I mean, a few people have spoken to me about my books, and these have been other black people and said, Sam, don't you think you should diversify a bit more with your characters? Because like most of your characters are black, your books are very kind of like, poetic choice of a black voice. Maybe try and change the title. I refuse to do it, and I'll tell you why. Because at the end of the day, there's not many of us that are out there anyway that get a chance to say what we want to say. The whole world, I grew up in a world that was like centered around, white society. I went to a school literally when I lived in Oxford, predominantly a white school. All the texts that we read, all the books that we read were white. Why is it such an issue for people when suddenly I want to have black characters in my books or I want to talk about black issues? What is it that we're so afraid of that when I do that, even my own black friends have said to me, but don't you think you're a bit too black or it's a bit too much on the black side? I write about what I want to write about. If you don't want to read my books, it's as simple as that. Don't read them. But this is the angle that I'm coming from, and I refuse to change because I'm writing for an audience that have not been catered for a long time. I'm writing for people whose voices have been silenced for years. So why should I now, in order just to sort of appease other people and make them feel comfortable, or so that I can sell more because my books will look a bit more, friendly to everybody else? Why should I have to sort of dim my light to make other people feel more comfortable?
I, I've
So I
I've
don't
I've
really care
I've
personally,
actually I've I've actually had the same thing with a lot of
Hmm.
pushback. Oh, why is it just black? Why is it just for black people? I've had exactly the same thing what you're talking about. And this is from your own community of people of saying, why does it have to just be black? And I'm saying, why can't it just be black? Why can't I just
Exactly,
look at
exactly.
someone or someone who looks like me and just talk about our community, what affects our community, what's going wrong in our community, how can we improve it, and what's the good things going on in our community as well? Because I think that is a thing that needs to get highlighted, the good stuff, not just the bad stuff, but also the good stuff that's going on out there.
But can I also touch on what you just said? Because why is it when it's our community that talk about ourselves, it's wrong, but when other communities do it, it's okay. But as soon as black people start looking out for other black people, or black people talk about black things, oh, we're trying to isolate ourselves. Oh no, we're trying to push other people out. But when they've been doing it for years and other communities do it, nobody says anything to them. We all know what it's about. There's a fear of a black united front. So I think whenever we do anything, we're always told to sort of water it down a little bit. Or, well, don't say that, Sam, you might alienate people. I'll give you an example. I remember going to a school once and one of the children asked, it was like a multicultural school. And he said, why are your characters black? So I literally just thought, let me just answer this a different way. So I asked all the kids how many of them had seen Black Panther. All the hands went up. So I said, let's just look at this now. Panther was predominantly a black movie. I think there might have been maybe one or two white actors in there. But I said to the children, but you still went to watch the movie. So it doesn't matter who's on the front cover of the book. If the story's good, the story's good. My son used to read Harry Potter, and I doubt there's many black people in those stories. He read the story because it was good, and we've got to get to a stage where just because I have a black child on the front of my book doesn't mean a child who's not black can't read the story. And this is where it comes into, as a black author, you'll find people trying to sort of tailor to a wider audience to get more sales or so that people be more comfortable. I'll be very honest with you, most of my characters, they will be as dark as possible because I'm not going to do this whole colorism thing. We'll make them a bit lighter so that other people won't feel so threatened and things like that. As black people, we come in many different shades and we usually know the ones that are preferred. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to represent people that look like me and lots of other children out there who don't see their faces because they prefer to have lighter skinned children with the curlier, soft, so-called hair. And I'm not going to do that. So if that means I don't sell as many books because of that, then I'm happy with that because I have actually stayed true to myself and I will write about what I want. And if people want to write about other things, they can feel free to go and publish their own books. And it's as simple as that. I won't change my stance on it. Again, people have choices as to which books they buy, which authors they buy from. And I'm sticking with being unapologetically proud of who I am and writing books for my community.
Yes, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. But touching on that Black Panther film, I tell you what, I didn't like that Black Panther film at all, to be honest. And I'll tell you the reason
You're about
why.
the second one. The second one or the
I'm
first
talking
one?
about
The
the
second
second
one.
one. The second one,
Oh,
I
of
didn't
course, the
like
first.
it.
Yeah, of course. Of course, the second one, no one really liked the second
But I
one.
didn't like it, and maybe I will pull that up on the show, a discussion where people can phone in and give their opinion on it. But I just felt that we got beat up. Literally, the black people in it got beat up, and I was like, "What's going on in this movie?" I thought we are supposed to be like the strongest one, and it just didn't represent us. To me personally, to me, I just felt like, no, we're supposed to be the strongest, and these other whoever they were came in and was like beating us up. Destroyed our village and everything, and it was like by luck where she defeated him. Just by luck, she defeated him, and I'm like, what's going on here? What is really going on? Just by luck. So I'm like, nah,
Well,
that film didn't represent us.
I think in comparison to the first one, which had such a major impact, which was why when we all lost, Chadwick, everybody felt so sad because it was more than just losing him. It's what he represented. And if you ever do any research about Chadwick, all of his roles were very kind of like, influential roles. He was very cautious about the roles that he took. So I think when Black Panther resonates with people so much because of that as well, and because of the leading man in the movie as well, and it was the first time, obviously, that for a lot of young black children, they had a black superhero. I think that was the problem. Like I said, when I saw the second movie, I just kept thinking, how did this happen? But again, I think that could be a really interesting topic for one of your phone-ins.
Definitely, I think I have to definitely get that in for next week, maybe, on films and
Can I,
are they
can I
representing black people?
Can I just suggest, if you would also love to do a phone in about Jafaican, I'd love to see the views on that as well, because
Oh,
I'm just
please.
saying, I'm just trying to stir the pot here, but
No, we won't stir that pot. We won't stir that pot. I'm sure there's many Jamaicans out there, or Jamaicans. No, but films, I think definitely we have to have a discussion about that film where people can literally phone in and give their own opinion. Because this is what the Just Talk Black show is. It's about giving people that, space to air how they feel. But I think that's definitely a topic that I'm gonna bring up next week. That, yeah, I think you just hit that one, because I watched the film and I'm like, something's going wrong here. Even down in films, I always looked at it when I was growing up. The black person was the first one to die, or we were the baddies. And still today, is still out there to me personally when it comes down to films. We're either doing in a lot of films sex, drugs, killing, and I think we're more than that. And I think we're the only, well, I'm gonna say not the only, but majority of the time, that is what we're more recognized for, I would say. And there's a lot of films out there that don't get put out there on top, which are
mm,
representing us in a good way. But I think a lot of these films, like, I'm going to be honest, because this is just a Just Talk Black show. So Top Boy was like, and I know people might be saying, "What's wrong with Top Boy?" But it didn't represent us to me. It represented a little majority of the people. Yes, how they grow up and that's life. But what about the bigger audience and out there? So films, I think we have to have a discussion about that. Definitely next week on the show. Yeah, call in. I will get that out there. So look on my Instagram page and we'll have a discussion about that. But just on films and legacy. So let me answer the last question of the day. What legacy do you hope when writing your books that you leave for further generation of black storytellers?
I'd like to believe I leave a legacy of resilience, excellence, and just being consistently good. I think one of the things you have to do, I think, when you're thinking about your legacy is thinking about what you represent. And I think you just touched on that with, for example, even with movies. It's all good and well making money, but what legacy have you left behind? I remember seeing somebody on Instagram the other day, and I think it's a financial advisor. I cannot remember his name. And from the UK, and he'd said something about when he was younger, he always wanted to make lots of money, right? And then his dad passed away maybe in the last year. And he said when his dad passed away, one of the things that he just kept hearing from everybody, your dad was such a good man, your dad was such a good man. And he came on Instagram and he said, I've changed my thought process into about just making money. I just want to be known that I was a good man. And that really touched me because it makes you see sometimes that your legacy it isn't always about leaving money behind. And I know we always use the buzzword generational wealth, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we've also got to get back to just being, proud of what we actually put out there, because I could make a lot of money by writing a lot of nonsense. But would I be proud? Would I be able to look at myself in the mirror every day and be like, well, at least I've got money, which is what most people say nowadays. You're just hating because I've got money and you haven't, that kind of thing. I need to be able to look at the mirror and be proud of myself that the work that I put out into the universe is of quality, but it also can uplift rather than it just being, all the worst stereotypes. Because I'm sure if I wanted to write a book, a really kind of just scandalous book, I could, and probably make lots of money out of it. Because as you just said, sometimes the very stereotypes they try to actually hold us by is what sells the most. But I'm not going to do that. So my legacy really will be one of excellence and one of just being myself and really leaving something behind that other generations can either look up to or can be inspired by, the same way that I've been inspired by other writers who have written things of quality and not just falling down, into the trap of writing in order to make money, which means they sell their soul to the highest bidder.
That's absolutely true. You know, I just want to just say a big shout out to Norms TV and everybody who's literally writing in the comments. There's a couple of people who literally wrote some comments, and as this show progress, we will bring your comments live on the screen so people can see it. This is the first launch of Just Talk Black podcast. So, Sam, I really want to just really thank you for coming on today. You have been a star for the first
Thank you.
Just Talk Black podcast ever. So, how can people literally find you and to buy your books as well? How would they find you and to buy your books?
Well, my website is nubianamedia.com. You can purchase the books from there, but I'm also at a lot of different trade events. I'm going to be at Leicester Carnival this year. I'm at Hackney Black Book Fair as well in August. I'm at another carnival in Oxford on the 5th of July. So I do go out to lots of events as well. I do go on Instagram, but I'm going to be very honest with you all. I've taken a little bit of a break from Instagram. And one bit of advice I could give to people at times, sometimes if you need to take a break from what you're doing, take a break. I feel sometimes there's this pressure to always be online and always posting something, and I started to feel like I wasn't being true to myself. So I'm not on Instagram as much as I used to be, but you can see lots of my poems on there. So my Instagram is at Nubiana Media, and I also have a Facebook page as well, Samantha Rodgers, where you can see lots of my poetry. But I would say also on my website I have lots of poems on there as well. I also have a YouTube channel for children called The Rhyming Queen, which has got lots of my poems for children, and I've animated them into videos so they're more engaging for children. So I'm available on many, many different platforms, and I will be back on Instagram with more consistency soon. I've just taken a break for my own sanity, mental health, and just to recuperate. So,
Just a quick question, because this is like where we just speak the truth. Have you ever
Mhm.
had pushback from black authors? Now, we're not saying name no names, but how is it within the black author realm of authors? Like when it comes to collaborations, and do you ever get like that pushback from your own authors, like the black authors out there? Not naming no name. Come on, let's keep
Oh,
it
name.
real.
I'm very diplomatic. There's some very bad mind people out there. I think the problem is it's like they don't seem to realize the whole notion of, we kind of we rise by lifting others. And what usually happens is, let's say one black author makes it big, they just want to keep that all for themselves. So they wouldn't sort of like try and bring in anybody else or be like, let me suggest my friend or something like that. Not all, in a lot of the book fairs I go to, everybody's really very supportive, if I'm honest. Like, for example, a lot of my books have got boys as characters. And I remember I was at an event with another author, and one of the customers said, oh, she sent me to you because most of her books were about girls. She goes, oh, the lady over there's got books about boys. Now, she didn't have to do that. So I don't want it to sound like there's not any unity, because there is. But unfortunately, I think the problem comes when you make it and you get through the gatekeeper's door. It's that same thing whether you're an actor or a musician. They can only have one of us at a time. So I think then you feel quite fearful to bring anybody else in. So I think that can happen. I've seen it happen with a few people. Whether it's ego, whether it's because, like you said, they don't want more than one of them in there at a time. They think, just one of us at a time? I'm not really sure, but most of my experience has been good. A lot of the fairs I go to, there's been a lot of networking. There's been a lot of people sharing advice or who they got their banner printed by and small things like that. But I am very aware that some of the bigger authors or authors that have made it through don't usually want to share the spotlight as much, and they do try and sort of keep it all for themselves. But I think that isn't just with authors, that unfortunately happens with a lot of Black people, because there is that mentality that, you know, only one of us can get in, which is a shame, because that's the way they've conditioned our brain to be, so that we feel that way, which is very negative, because other communities don't do that in the same way. But hopefully, you know, things will change.
Thank you, Samantha, for being on the show today. I mean, what can I say? Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Black author. So just follow her on Instagram. As she said her Instagram and stuff. So I just really want to thank you all for tuning in today. It was a pleasure. This is, as I said, the launch of Just Talk Black Show. We're gonna get bigger, we're gonna get better, and we're gonna talk about some topics that people don't even want to talk about. So tell a friend, tell a family, and subscribe. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well, and you can find ourselves on My Black Solution, and you can subscribe there. So that's the place to subscribe. And also, you can follow us on Instagram at Just Talk Black. It's not Just Talk Black Show, it's Just Talk Black. So you can find me on Instagram. And if you want to be on the show, as I said, DM me, phone me, send me a message, wherever you can do, and we'll get you on this show, just like Samantha, so you can promote your business, what you're doing. And I just want to say another big thanks from Norse TV. He's absolutely a podcaster. So if you see him in the chat, follow him. I think it's every Wednesday he's live, and follow him. He's a gooner. So Samantha, you might want to follow him as well. He's a gooner. So follow him, and he has very different topics and stuff, and he's got other people on his podcast, and that is a Black podcast to me. You know, that's someone who represent us. That's somebody who inspired me to even come on and start doing stuff like this. So follow Norm's TV, and just thank you everybody for tuning in today. All those who haven't even put a message in, thank you for watching the Just Talk Black show. Remember, next week, Thursday, same time, 7 p.m. We're going to have another special guest for you. And I'm telling you, I'm getting booked up. People are phoning in to literally be on this show. So thank you again for tuning in and watching. Please subscribe and tell a friend, tell your family.
Big love to everyone tuning in, to every voice, every vibe, every Black soul shining. This one's for you. Thank you for riding with the Just Talk Black Show. We started with a mic and a dream. Now your love makes the vision beam. Every like, every share, every view means the world we honor you. You stay locked in week by week, giving power to the words we speak. This is more than a show, it's truth. So we give this back to you. Thank you for the love, yeah, we feel that vibe. Feel that vibe, feel that vibe. You lift us up and keep us alive. Stay alive, stay alive. From the heart of the block to the global flow. Let them know. Thank you for riding with Just Talk Black Show. Big respect to the fam who stayed through the laughs, the tears, the moves we made. You are the reason we grow and glow. Thank you for tuning to Just Talk Black Show. We talk black, we talk bold, but it's you that keeps the story told. When you comment, call in and vibe, you bring this whole thing to life. From Black businesses to rising stars, we're shining bright cause you play your part. No matter where you're watching from, you are the heartbeat of this drum. Chronicle the strength